Hell Rats, and welcome to the Metal Mayhem ROC YouTube channel. I'm your host, Southern Cal. Tonight, we're going to be talking to the singer of the hard rocking band Carbellion. We're going to find out what's the difference between a bar fight and a sandlot rumble, why this name is actually a perfect fit for this band, and I mean perfect. And we're going to be talking about their latest album, The Weapon of Choice. Please welcome to the show, Cameron Kellenberger.
Thanks for having me. Looking forward to talking about all these things.
All right. Well, hey, let's talk first about the name Carbellion. Definition defines it as ambitious, playful, and different. After listening to you guys, I have to tell you, is this not the perfect name? And how did this name come about for the band?
No, that's a good question. And it's, it's a made up word. So it's like, people are like, well, what is it? What does it mean? Where's it come from? So, the quick backstory on it is this. When we first got together, myself and the other original member from the very beginning, many, many moons ago, Brandon Bauer, we went back and forth and debated about names, and we just couldn't get to a name we liked. And then finally we were in the studio recording our 3-song demo, and again, many years ago. And we were like, we came from 2 different bands. I was in a band called Carbon Parlor way back, and he was in a band called Whiskey Rebellion, right? So finally, I think it was Brandon, who just said, we just put the names together. Let's call a band like Carbellion. And the studio engineer turned around in his chair and he said, that's the name. That's the name. You guys should go with that name. And it's kind of stuck. Over the years, we've told all kinds of crazy stories and made up a ton of crap about what it actually, it's a Spanish ghost ship, famous bullfighter, all kinds of things. But yeah. And then people associate it with hot rods and motorcycles because we're all super into that stuff. So, like a car rebellion. So,
okay, there you go. I had to look it up. I just was like, is there a definition for this word? And I tell you, from reading the bio on you guys and reading some stuff about you guys and just the songs and stuff and the playfulness in the songs and the fact that you guys pride yourself on being unique to your sound, which I think I've only heard one other band that it really sounds like you. That's a band called Calabrese out of Arizona. They're just a fun, hard rocking band. And when you go to see them, that's all you're going to end up doing is having fun. You can't help but have fun. So let's give us, we're talking about it. The beginnings of the band Carbellion. How long ago did you guys start?
Been a lot of years. So next year, 2024 is our 20th anniversary. So 20 years. A lot of records, some lineup changes, amongst a couple of the players, in the band. The current lineup's been together for over 7 years. So, and our lead guitar player has been in the band for about 17, 18 of the 20 years, but he was originally the drummer. So if you go way back, he was the drummer. Now he's our lead guitar player, Jamie Damrow. So, been around a long time. Yeah, 100%. So yeah, we've been around a while doing this, and the sound has evolved, somewhat, but the original idea of playing like, hey, the 3-song demo we did, 20 years ago coming up on that, is it called American Heavy Rock? Yeah. Because that's kind of what we think it is, right? It's very rock and roll, but we got a very heavy edge. We tuned down a little bit. There is some metal influence, some stoner rock influence, some different stuff that kind of Sabbath influence. But yeah, we still play rock and roll songs, so it's American heavy rock. That's what we call it.
I think, like you said, there's a lot of different themes in that music, but when it comes out in the end, it's definitely unique to you guys for sure.
Thank you.
It's like you said, you're edgier, tuned down, clean vocals. You are the vocalist of the band. Mm-hmm. Do you do the writing of the songs, or are you the lyricist for the band?
Yeah, I am the lyricist. We have a couple of songs here and there that the other guys stepped in and either co-wrote or wrote over the last 20 years. On the most recent record, Weapons of Choice, one of the songs, Pity the Backseat, which is also one of the singles, the lyrics and the musical idea and kind of all of that came in a rough form from our drummer. It's his love letter to the Outsiders movie and book. So he wrote all the lyrics, which is the first song in all of Carbellion history where it was 100% the lyrics were written by not me. So I've co-wrote with the other guys, but for the most part, yeah, I write 99% of the stuff lyrically.
Yeah, definitely got that SE Hinton. And it was funny. It took me a little minute until he asked if you can see the sunset and the north side and the south side. And I was like, wait a minute, why do I know this? I know this. I had to rewind and go back and listen to that again. So, well, talking about this, the Weapons of Choice came out in March 2023. 10 songs. It's your fourth, I believe, full length album, and it took about 3 years with COVID to complete this album. Was when you first started recording this pre-COVID, you had some songs done, and then you did some songs after COVID. There was such a great time in between, did you find any differences from the first songs you were writing to the songs that came in the end after COVID?
That's an interesting call out. So we did have a couple songs in the can in the studio right when COVID hit. And we continued to write and develop the other songs over those couple of years. Fortunately, with modern tech and video call, and when it was really bad in the beginning, and then when we were able to get back together, we fleshed all the rest of it out. But even just the audio mix, because there's so much time in there, even though it was all in the same studio with the same engineer, it took a little bit of work to get those first couple of songs and the tones back, and the songs that were done after that to really match seamlessly from like an audio, mixing standpoint, to be honest. From a songwriting perspective, we're always kind of writing, so it wasn't a radical departure from the first couple songs to the remainder of the record. But definitely that was an interesting process. I mean, we forced into that. We never had dealt with anything like that before.
It's crazy. Sound engineers can be so meticulous like that. I'm a big fan of the Grateful Dead too. That's my side stuff. And they record live shows. There was 2 live shows that we recorded, and these guys could actually tell that the microphones were set 1 inch further back from something or whatever from the previous show. And you're like, how can you tell it's 1 inch difference? But hey, these guys are all over that. This is why they're sound engineers and things like that. And, being things like this happen, you could definitely pick it out. So, well, let's get into this album. And right off the bat, what a fun song this is, Bar Fight. Lyricist, are these personal experiences from playing gigs, seeing bar fights, or is this like a fly on the wall perspective song?
It's a little bit of column A, column B, I guess I would say. It was it's a very tongue-in-cheek kind of sarcastic song in from a lyrical standpoint. It's kind of a cliched story, like almost like a movie scene. I even kind of alluded to that in the lyrics. About it's a little greaser socias, it's like, written from the first person. My crew rolls in, there's a bunch of Johnny football heroes there, they're playing a bunch of crappy music as we all get to drinking, we've had enough, and it's kind of like, damn, it feels good to be alive, because it's like the living for the moment vibe, right? So it's a little bit tongue-in-cheek. There's some kind of funny things about it. 80 proof is proof enough for me. I mean,
it's the chorus in that, it's definitely got a great hook, like you just said, damn, it feels good to be alive. That brings you right into that song and nestles right in, and you're just immersed in that whole song. It's good, very good song, great song.
Thanks.
And now we're talking about the socias and stuff, and the pity in the backseat. Now, you didn't write this. You said Brent Nimz, the new drummer, your newest drummer, let's just say, he's been 7 years in the band now. Are you guys SE Hinton fans?
Well, I mean, we all like the movie. Some of us have read the book in school and stuff. So we liked the idea when Brent said, "Hey, I wrote this song." It's kind of like, this was a really important book and movie to me, and I wrote this song, and I don't know if it fits with us, but I think we should do it. And we all loved it right away, being familiar with the movie, and again, some of us with the book, and we're like, yes, it's a great idea. Let's do it. So I'd say we're fans of it enough, and definitely there's a theme there, the bad boys versus the good boys, that greaser socias, so to speak, right? I mean, we probably associate a little more wrong side of the tracks, bad boys, if just kind of, our coming up and who we are as people and hot rock guys and stuff. So
it's a great shout out to the movie The Outsiders, the book The Outsiders. SE Hinton. I started reading her books when I was in 6th grade. Just all of them, all four of them that she had put out at the time. Just some great stuff there, and it's a great nod to that. Being that Brent is the latest member to join your band, how did he come to join the band?
Well, when basically what happened is when our original lead guitar player, Peter Risch, family stuff, he just kind of said, guys, I got to step aside. I can't do the touring. It's gotten to be too much. So we had a rhythm guitar player, Brandon, who's been in from the beginning as well, but we had a voided lead guitar player. And that's when Jamie, our drummer, said, hey, look, I miss playing lead guitar. I'd like to take a stab and do this. And of course, being a brother, we had to give him that opportunity. And he's fantastic. He is an incredible lead guitar player, great drummer. But an incredible lead guitar player. So it was like, okay, well, he really wants to do this. He's killing it on lead. Let's go find a drummer. Let's see who's out there. And he's a hard guy to replace because he's a hard hitter as a drummer, and he plays very much for the song. So you can hear that on our previous records. So we were looking, and Brent filled in really well because he is also a very hard hitter, big rock guy. Got a bit of a punk background too, which that brought some kind of fresh rock and roll, rock punk kind of vibe into it. And you even hear that on Pity the Backseat and on Bar Fight. They're both hard rock numbers that are kind of, tempos up. And he drives a lot of that on the drums, and the feel of it. So that's kind of how he came in to be.
Definitely has that that punk feel is definitely intertwined in there. And I think that comes in lyrically, but you can also, like you said, with the tempo of the band and the tempo of the songs, it's all you definitely hear that. But then again, you can hear that you guys tune down. You got that edgier sound, of course, which is I think one of the things I really like about the band. The song Spaces, that song really kind of gets down in there and digs in a little bit deep. Tell me about that song.
So Spaces, I kind of equate that's kind of like a doom rock, stoner rock, the grunge influence that I have, from the grunge era. You maybe hear some of that in there too, a little Alice in Chainsy in some of it. That it's a heavy song. Brandon had the riff ideas for it originally when he brought these couple of riffs together that we started building the song on. And the vibe it was giving me is kind of how I came to be with the lyrics. And it's a little more abstract lyrically. Space is about really appreciating the moment. It's the spaces in between that we don't take for granted enough. That's where the song's, it's kind of where Spaces comes from, what it's about. How to appreciate all the moments in life. That's kind of what the theme is. But, it's one of our hard rockers live. It's like one of those, the way it starts and it's just, we're bringing in that big riff and gets the right kind of a chug tempo. So that's a fan favorite to play for sure.
Out of the 10 songs, what's your favorite new song to play live when you're out playing?
That's always tough. That's always so tough.
Top one or two favorite. I'm not going to pinhole you here.
Yeah. Pity the Backseat's really fun because it's a call and response. You pity the backseat. You get the people doing it. That's super fun to play live. And it's a really easy one for me to do. It's just very rock and roll delivery and, really enjoyed that one. Bar Fight, a little bit that way too. Kind of channel a little bit of that Blackie Lawless and almost myself call and response in the chorus. There's a little bit of that yell back that's kind of Blackie Lawlessy from Wasp a little bit. Otherwise, playing live, I like doing the Jungle song because it's just so different on this record.
Very different.
Really moody. I can kind of totally change the feel of the show a little bit when we play it live. And I get really quiet and I get stare, and it's just like it brings the mood totally different. So I'd say the Jungle song. That's one. That's
definitely the let's say the redheaded stepchild of the album. That song is very different upon the rest of the album. Again, a great song.
Thanks.
That's awesome. You guys, are you playing any shows now? Are you touring? Any plans to go out on the road, or let's say to do a small tour, big tour, anything like that?
2024, we're looking at additional festivals. This last year, we played kind of our first big festival in a while. We played Rock Fest up in Cadott. The night we the headline of that night was Pantera when we played, the reformed Pantera. So huge show for us, thousands and thousands of people, great time. So we're really focused on some festival opportunities. And I can't make an announcement just yet for a few weeks, but I think there's a good chance we're going to go to Europe. I'll just say that.
There you go.
This summer.
Good exposure.
So, yeah, definitely. We've had some great conversations with some folks, across the pond. We've done some things. This year, Diggeth came over. They're on Qumran Records, one of the record labels we're tied in with. And they came over from the Netherlands and played some dates with us. So that's kind of a conversation. Do we get over to the Netherlands and do something with them? I think 2024, I just popped out on our social, 2024 big touring year. I think we're going to have it's our 20th anniversary. We're going to make some big events happen.
Awesome. Are you finding, like, it seems like every time you turn around, you hear a band announce a tour, and maybe a week later they're canceling the tour, logistics, trucking, rental equipment, all sorts of things. Are you finding that it's maybe easier, which a lot of bands are doing now, just going and playing these festivals, these one-off festivals here or there, and not so much doing a proper 3-week tour or things like that?
Yeah, there is a lot of money and overhead that goes into like your traditional touring, right? Whether that's bus, van and trailer at whatever level, there's just overhead with it. Fuel costs are up, inflation's up, all that kind of stuff. So I definitely think the festival is a nice way to do it because you get a giant audience on one date or one weekend or one show. So we are putting some attention to that. But I mean, if you're smart, I feel like if you're smart, you build the right relationships, you play the right size rooms for wherever you're at in the right markets. I think you can still do more traditional touring. So it's just kind of like, again, you got to kind of tour within your means, live within your means, as they say. It's that kind of a thing. I think there's a way to do it. I mean, I talked to a lot of bands, the bands on our label Eclipse, and also on Qumran, where we released our physical release. And I've talked with them about how they do touring and that, and some good and bad ideas out there.
Right.
Just say that, right?
Have you found that any of these smaller clubs, like let's say like House of Blues type of clubs, they are so wanting money that they're even getting a percentage of the band's T-shirt or merch sales? Have you found you've run across anything like that before?
Yeah, so that's definitely something we avoid like the plague. I'll just say that. I don't personally believe that venues should get a merch cut unless they're going to give me a bar cut.
Thank you. Right.
That's kind of how I look at it. And don't get me wrong, there are some instances where that exists. So, it's about the right deal and the right place. Interesting enough, you bring up House of Blues. Live Nation announced not too long ago that they are not doing that anymore at any of their venues, which includes all their amphitheaters and their clubs for this year.
Thank God. Let a band make some money. It's hard enough out there, and you want to hit them up for even more money, T-shirt money,
So I'm hoping in my head, because they own House of Blues, they own all these amphitheaters and stuff, and they're the biggest promoter in the world. I would hope that sets a trend, because they were somebody who was taking a percentage in cuts and merch. Well, to support local touring and to keep that alive, they're now made a big formal statement that they're no longer going to do that. So
yeah, there's a lot that goes along with bands and their writers. Some bands I know have wanted and get a percentage of the bar as an exchange for a percentage of that and this and that. I just say leave the T-shirt money to the bands. My God, it's
an easier way to do it. I mean,
sure.
I run over under splits on the bar. I do a lot of the band booking finance side of things when we're not using tour management. And as long as the club owners are fair, we'll be back. That's kind of how I look at it. That's some of that booking intelligence too. Like I was saying, touring, how do you do it? Don't sell yourself short, but don't overcommand what you can't deliver on either. Right. I mean, sure. What are you really going to draw? Don't ask for money that a band that draws 1,000 people when you draw 200 people in your club. Oh, that's okay. Know your value. Know your overhead.
True. Have you guys ever been part of any of the Milwaukee Metal Fests that have gone?
I've attended as a fan several, but it went away for so many years. Back in the day, short answer, Carbellion's never played one, but now that it's back, and it's back in a pretty big way, Jamie Josta from Hatebreed, I think, has relaunched
Yep.
that as a promoter producer of that, and doing it in Milwaukee at the Eagles Ballroom in all of their rooms, because they're a 4-room venue. Very cool. Would definitely be interested. I mean, we'll see kind of maybe what happens with it.
It's
Definitely.
funny. I can we have all these sick festivals. There's a 2 minutes to Tulsa that was just announced in March. You got the Milwaukee Metal Fest. You know, being on the East Coast, and I'm sure the people on the West Coast feel the same. It seems like all these great festivals are right in the middle of America, and which is, you can say, hey, you know, it's in the middle, so it's equal for everybody. But usually they're just a little too far for us to make. And but God, the bills on there, the bands that are playing are just insanely great. And there.
Sure.
Got a little section of my show. I like to call it the rapid fire section. Three quick questions. No deep thought really needed about them. There's no wrong or right answers, let's say. When you're cruising around South Milwaukee there, or Wisconsin, what's on your playlist? What are you jamming when you're just driving around listening to tunes, or out in your garage, or whatever you're doing, shoveling snow?
Yeah, I'd say the big recognizable bands. I listen to a lot of, like, throw Queens of the Stone Age on. I like the new Quicksand record a lot. I think that's a really great record. I got into the latest Diggith record. They're on Qumran Records with us, and I think they got a great record. It's very cool. Jam a little bit of that. What else have I listened to lately? That's probably my quick three, I guess we'll just say.
With working with Benjamin, and online metal promotion, I was always looking for new bands. There was, after the 90s and things like that, it was good to see some of the older bands coming back and re-releasing stuff, because this was the stuff I liked. And with Benjamin, every band that he sent us, and especially your band, another band was Love and War from Houston, Texas, which was just a great album, great band. Carbellion is the same way. I thank Benjamin for sending you guys our way. But this is my way of getting to hear about bands that I probably may have not heard of before, or may not have heard of ever. It's just a matter of getting out there and exposing yourself to it. So this is why I like to ask you guys, what are you listening to? Because maybe there's something you're going to throw out there that, hey, I got to check this out, All right. Yeah. How about if you could have had any other occupation, let's say, what would it have been besides being a singer in Carbellion?
I think I'd have probably done something with film. I think that's another media form, art form, if you want to call it that, not to sound conceited, but I mean, I think that, I like working with the video and the filming side of things, and kind of conveying a message through visual art too. So I think I'd probably do something, short films. I don't know, something like that.
Do you take that love for that and do anything with the concept of your album covers, let's say, or any of the artwork for the band? Are you involved in that?
I'm very involved in that. Yeah. Some of the artwork, depending on what it is, I do some of the graphic design and stuff. Our most recent record cover, we had some influence, myself and Brent, the drummer, but we had that done by a good friend of ours. So, I mean, yeah, definitely is the visual arts. I'm very involved in that. I do most of our flyer art and tour stuff art, t-shirt design. I'm heavily involved in that, do a lot of that. So yeah, that's definitely a part of being in the band that I do pull myself into quite a bit, is the artwork side.
Well, back when there was albums that were everywhere, that was the mode of listening to your music. Album art was a huge thing. You could buy an album, you're not even knowing anything about the band, just based upon the album artwork. Molly Hatchet stuff and things like that. Sarah Thongel always had just great artwork. Iron Maiden, of course. So I always thought that was a big part. And, nowadays, it's hard to explain what an album is, or a flip side of an album, to a younger kid, let's say, who was born after 1995 or something in that realm, even after 2010 or 2005. So who is your biggest influence on you musically?
Oof, that's really hard for me personally. As a singer, and I was kind of just coming into it and trying to learn how to get a style and kind of build my own. It's a lot of the grunge era. It's Lane Staley, it's Chris Cornell, Mark Lanigan from the Screaming Trees. I mean, I was really into that kind of 90s some of the shout stuff, even like kind of like Helmet, Page Hamilton from Helmet. Um, I like some of that delivery too. So definitely in that 90s alt metal / grunge era is where I take a lot of my original influence. And, I came up in a classic rock era, my parents' records and things like that. So, a little bit more Creedence Clearwater Revival. There's a little bit of that stuff I'm into too. You hear it in some of the rockier stuff that I do. Um, so yeah, I mean, I guess that's where my influences come from the most. I couldn't pick a particular band. I mean, Corrosion of Conformity and Pepper Keenan is
Yeah.
a big influence on even so my lyric writing. Like I like to read his lyrics. I like to understand the songs. I think he's a great vocal delivery. So yeah, that'd be some.
Awesome. I just you talked about Lane Staley and Alice in Chains there. I think one of their very first gigs, they were on a heavy metal bill, and they got, which I always loved Alice in Chains, and I guess just because of the timing and all that, they were lumped in with the grunge uh, grouping of bands, Nirvana and bands like that. But I always thought that they were very different from that. And you could definitely tell you guys have a little bit of Alice in Chains in you for sure. Uh, Great influence band and just a great band from back in the 90s. One of the few bands that I actually liked. I have to admit, I was just not into the grunge scene. It wasn't my cup of tea. I was a thrash metaler, and I needed stuff like that. So it was the dark ages for all of us early 80s metalheads. And,
Yeah.
but then again, from out of that, you have to look what came from out of all that, the grunge scene. And there was a lot of great bands that have come from them since and being influenced by them,
Yeah.
but taking that, let's say the new metal, and now we're back into kind of like the old metal, which is where I like it to be myself. So
Things are cyclic like that. I mean, you look at generations. I mean, grunge kind of hits, and what it's about is very much like it's the children of the late 60s, early 70s. The music's bigger than us. It must have a message, all that kind of thing, and then you bring in, if you talk about the technical metal stuff of like the 80s and some of the thrash and all that, the big resurgence of the American metal movement that happened with like Killswitch Engage and Shadows Fall and Lamb of God and all those bands kind of come out in the thing. And they've all got the technical chops and a really heavy, more of a metal tone. So all that stuff is kind of influence and builds on each other, I like to think, right? I mean, we definitely take a metal influence too. Jamie's a shredder guitar player, and he wrote some of the riffs on the new record. So you hear that in some of the songs. There's a metal influence. Some songs are more rock, some songs are more metal.
Definitely a great guitar player. There's great solos in the songs. Your drummer again is very, let's just say there's nothing extra there's not stuff in his drumming that doesn't need to be there just for the sake of throwing in 4 extra hits or cymbal splashes. Everything that he does is purposeful, let's say, in his playing. And I like a tribute almost to John Bonham from Led Zeppelin. He was just not a lot of cymbals in his music, and it wasn't necessary. So it's nice when you hear a band and that plays that way. They're not just playing 1,000 miles an hour to play 1,000 miles an hour and be like, hey, look at me. These guys are just jamming out, and this is what's needed for the song. And I felt that way with listening to Carbellion's Weapons of Choice, for sure.
I'm glad you hear that, because that's something I would say that every band member, on the music side of this, Steve on the bass, Brent on the drums, Brandon on rhythm, and Jamie on lead, and me conscious, we all write for the song. We try not to, it's not all about a showcase and fighting for our space. It's more like what's best for the song. So I'm glad that conveys through, when people listen to it.
Oh, definitely came out. I try not to talk about the bass playing is great. I am such an amateur bass player, and I've been playing since I was probably 14. I'm 55 now. Am I any good now? No, but I still do like just to pick it up and jam with my friends. So I try not to talk about the basses unless something really stands out, because I just feel like any bass player to me, they're great. Somebody said playing in a band, these guys are great. And I wish I could get myself up to that, but after 40 years, it's just, I've given up to just playing in the garage.
A lot of work.
Yes. Try to balance that with a job and everything else. And so are you able to make a living from being in the band, or do you have to carry a subsistence job, a subsidiary job to support, let's say, your musical ambitions?
Yeah, all of us have career work at this point outside of the band. I mean, it's just like by the time we really got it together enough where we could have made the leap to say, okay, we're going to full-time go it. It's kind of like we're so deep in our careers at, and have had some real good, success in our day jobs that it actually, in a funny way, it enables us to have a better band life because we've got the funding without, while at the same time having some freedom at the levels we're at in our day jobs to be able to tour and do things, right? So we've got a little bit of best of both worlds. Long-winded answer to say is we can't quite we wouldn't quit our day jobs to be the band because it'd be such a step down financially with where we're at in our lives to rebuild to try to get back up. But we also don't have to we don't have no shortcomings in the band because we're able to fund it and we are able with the freedom of time to get off and tour and stuff.
Again, I think a lot of the bands are in the same boat you're in. And again, this is why I think these bands all try to do these festival dates. It's not like you can go take a month off from your job, but hey, I can get the weekend off and fly into wherever and go play a sick gig for the weekend and fly home, get paid. And I think a lot of bands are in that same boat. Interesting, like Surathungal, they've never really done a proper tour, but man, they play festivals all the time. And that's just because these guys all work. That, unfortunately, you'd always love to see a band being able to make it just from playing their music. Have you ever if you had the choice where you played, let's say, in 4 different bands and you're playing 5 different shows a week in each different band, one's a wedding band, one's a polka band, one's a sick metal band, and one's like a Journey cover band, but you were making enough money from these gigs just being musically, would you rather do something like that? Or would you rather it just be, I wish I could have, make the money from Carbellion, but I have this job, but I can stay true to my roots of our metal and just have Carbellion? What would you rather have?
The latter. I think definitely the latter. I mean, there was a point in my life early on in this where I thought, well, maybe I could do a couple different bands, throw to the wall, see what sticks, really go 6 days a week, 7 days a week, go all in on it. But my love for what I do and the kind of band that we're in, it's like, I don't really want to do that. The cover bands, the tribute bands, the other, I mean, I don't think I'd want to go there. I'd definitely rather try to do everything I can to enable the one band or, I'm in a second band, but I mean, essentially what I really want to do musically and with people that are like-minded, I think I would rather sacrifice and have to work the day job to do it.
I agree. I think you stick to your guns. I have a friend, this kid was playing Eruption when we were in 6th grade, just an insane guitar player. But he plays in 5 different bands with all different music, but he can make the money to support himself. Good but one. I feel as if he compromises himself too by, dude, you're a 6 shredder. You were playing Rush back in the day, and now you're playing, the chicken dance at a wedding. So I like the fact that you would stick to your guns and hold true to your heart and hold true to the metal scene and your music. That's awesome.
That's where I come from. I mean, look, teach their own. Don't get me wrong. There's people who just love playing music and they love it enough. I get it. And if it means that that's what you got to do, good on you, but it's not for me.
Awesome. Well, Cameron, before we let you go, tell us about your media outlets. How can we find out more about Carbellion and what's going on with the band?
Absolutely. I'd say, the magic for finding us online in any way is to be able to spell the band name. Carbellion. If you put that into Google, you're going to find us. We're it. We are the only Carbellion. We're on Facebook, Twitter, or X, formerly known as Twitter, I guess, whatever they're calling it these days. TikTok, Instagram, all of it's /Carbellion, pretty much. EclipseRecords.com has all of our links and obviously a bit about us too, if you want to go there. You can get our vinyl record from Qumran Records. We've got some stuff on their webpage. We're on Spotify, Apple Music, AMI jukeboxes nationwide. All your major, music streaming services. We're on YouTube with a channel with all our videos. Again, if you can spell Carbellion, plug it in, you'll find us. We're easy.
That's awesome. Cameron, I'd like to thank you for joining us tonight on the Metal Mayhem ROC channel. And I wish you the best in 2024. It seems like you got a lot going on, and hopefully you guys can get over to Europe. That would be awesome.
I think we're keep an eye on the social media. The next couple weeks, we're gonna release some big info on this. And thanks for having me. Thanks for supporting Carbellion, all the people out there, yourselves for having us. We'll talk again. Talk 2024. We'll have some more.
Yeah, we'll get back together with you for sure and see how that all goes. I appreciate that. Hey, it was our pleasure interviewing. Thank you very much, Cameron. Have a good night. Thanks. Hey, for the Metal Mayhem ROC channel, I'm your host.
Metal for Life.
Thank you for listening to Metal Mayhem ROC. Check out our website at metalmayhemroc.com for information on podcasts, archives, links to all our live radio shows, and all sorts of info. Please like, follow, and share with everyone, even your non-metal friends. And always remember to keep it heavy.